Okay, it's interesting that Scott asked me a few questions today, but I have a call from a very famous strength coach, one of the best ones in the world actually, Matt Nichols. And Matt is have been using amino acids since I taught him about amino acids. And he asked me a very interesting question, which is muscle synthesis, if I have muscle synthesis, empty stomach in the morning, does that mean I'm staying fasting? And the answer is no, because 1 gram of protein is 1 gram of muscle synthesis equal 1 gram of protein. But the difference is not there. Is one is the absorption and what I call partition of those calories. And what I mean by that, this partition means that the food is going to give you different signals depending on what you eat. Now, it is not fasting, but what's interesting is, let's suppose muscle synthesis is a group of amino acids, essential amino acids at specific ratios. The reason I do not allow the access to the ratios is because I did so much research trying to figure out how to make not a protein, but a supplement that was much better than proteins. And I do make money selling protein shakes, but I know that protein shakes or protein powders affect the person differently. The reason I say this is because there's athletes and there's normal people. The only problem is that athletes tend to eat the same food over and over. And I notice when you use protein powders, people will tend to develop gastric issues, bloating, unable to digest it, but also a big one that was food allergies. And you consume a lot of casein or whey powder, then you go eat cheese or you go eat or drink milk or yogurt, then you have allergy to that milk because you have been eating protein shakes, which proteins don't exist without fats. Be aware of that. Now, muscle synthesis is just a free-form amino acids, meaning a protein is a chain link of amino acids. Now, what I did is I just took the chain links, I completely separated. Now they're absorbed. Now, they used to believe that amino acids were absorbed in dipeptides or tripeptides forms, meaning 2 amino acids and 3 amino acids were absorbed higher than the single free-form amino. The only problem with that is, after doing research on my own, I figured out that that might not be true. They might be absorbed as quickly as single amino acids, but the only problem is that they require transporter or a specific absorption to be able to do this. Single amino acids will go through pretty easier, much easier because the cell needs them. Also, the way that the ratios are created in muscle synthesis, they increase anabolism by increasing actually insulin. So protein carbohydrates, when you feed them to the person, they increase the insulin levels. Now, the insulin level is dependent on the composition of those amino acids. For example, leucine is a major insulinogenic, meaning it makes you release insulin. People don't understand that. If there's very high levels of leucine, you will get high levels of insulin release. Now, it is not the same. 1 gram of leucine doesn't make you release 1 gram of carbohydrate does. So there's limitations to that. It's just that the release is there. Now, that is good. That's partition, meaning I give you 1 gram of muscle synthesis, it's going to increase your insulin levels up to a point, but a 1 gram of carbohydrate is going to spike your insulin levels. Now, the cool thing about it is that when I do the partition, or when the partition wants to make those absorptions to be as anabolic as possible. That's how amino acids work. They're anabolic. Now, the cool thing about this is you don't have to digest, so they're going to be absorbed. They're not going to cause bloatness. They're not going to cause digestive issues because they're not required to be digested. They just absorb pretty quickly. Now, if I give you 10 grams of protein or 10 grams of muscle synthesis, which one will be better? I think that the muscle synthesis will be better. Why? Because you don't have no side effects and you have all the benefit of muscle synthesis. Now, you're going to tell me it's impossible to imitate food, which I totally agree. I'm talking about protein powders and supplementation. But the only key here is that muscle synthesis grows and changes with research. Every year I go through research. Every year I take muscle synthesis and I might add something to it or take something out. Pretty soon there's going to be a new muscle synthesis because we're working on a new formula comparing and showing there's more anabolism with another. Why? Because there's research that is coming out and it's showing us how an amino acid absorbed. How are we making insulin be released more at the right time? So for example, let me give you an example here. And I want to answer an answer to Matt Nichols. Is having muscle synthesis fasting? No, because it's a protein source, but it's not going to act like a normal food. And the best way to do this, Matt, is by taking, let's eat, and we're going to have, I want you to use a protein powder because I want to compare supplement to supplement, not to food. Because food is always going to be better than any supplement. I don't care what they say, right? But I want you to take a 15 grams of protein shake of your choice. Whey, casein, whatever you want to choose. And you do that for 3 mornings in a row. See how you feel. See how your stomach feels. See if you can go work out. See how your soreness, there's measurement of that. And then for 3 days, use muscle synthesis. Tell me what the results are, which I know they're going to be beneficial with the muscle synthesis. You're going to have less soreness. You should be able to see a little more pump. You should be able to see other things without bloatness and things like that. Now, when I take muscle synthesis, almost a guarantee of anabolism. And you're going to ask me, why not add carbohydrates to it? Which is a very great, interesting question. I wouldn't do it in the morning if my interest is in losing weight. Or later on during the day, absolutely, you can add maybe 10 grams of raw honey. The reason I use raw honey because the benefits are amazing with raw honey. Why use that? Why add it? Because 15 grams is what you need for anabolism and for a workout. You don't need 50 grams. You don't need 100 grams. It's a total lie, and I will explain also that later. The amount of calories that we burn doing 10 sets of 10 squat at maximum intensity with a large amount of weight is about 300 calories, of course, depending on your body weight. If you're heavier, you burn more calories. The smaller, you burn less calories. But let's suppose that you burn 300 calories. I will explain that later. Now, muscle synthesis will change as the research changes and as new data and new things come out. So the next year, maybe we're going to have a new muscle synthesis. I'm almost sure that we will, because there are also now new research explaining how amino acids work and which combination works the best. And by adding certain things to it, it will show more anabolism. Now, protein shakes do work. They do work, but not as good as muscle synthesis. It is not the same. 1 gram of muscle synthesis is not the same as 1 gram of whey or casein. The 1 gram muscle synthesis will deliver more anabolism for your buck, for your time, and for your digestion than any protein shake. I have a hard time with whey and casein because I drank a lot of protein shakes in my lifetime. And I now, if I drink that, I get bloated, I feel gassy, you fart a lot, and actually I get runny nose, so my nose actually gets blood. I don't want that, which takes away from my anabolic category because I need to work on that. Now I'm creating an immune response, which muscle synthesis doesn't have. So, Matt, to answer your question is, I want you to do this for me, besides the 3 times 3 days, 3 days. I want you to consume, and this is to get leaner, by the way. This is not to gain size. You want to keep your body, your muscle weight. I want to take muscle synthesis, okay, and have it for breakfast. If you want to increase your size or prevent muscle breakdown, I will do branch change amino acid. I will do MR100. But in this case, I want to compare apples to apples because you asked me that. I want you to use muscle synthesis. I want you to do 4 scoops and compare to the same amount of grams, which is about 15 grams with a muscle protein. I want to see what happens to you during those 3 days. Now, after we're done that, please contact me. I want to see what you think, how you feel. Yeah, 3 days should be enough. You're going to ask me that short term. It's going to see something. Now, is that you're going to see enough changes on your workout or something like that? Maybe not. But we'll do it and see what happens to your soreness. Be aware of your mental acuity, okay? And see what's happening to it. You're going to see a difference. I hope that helps you with the question you asked me about that. Is muscle synthesis the same as protein? No. But 1 gram of muscle synthesis equals 1 gram of protein? Yes. But due to the reasons I explained before, they're not the same. Which we have done research that is very, very cool that I will discuss with you later. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, please contact Scott at Infinity Fitness or